On November 12th at St. Michael's Cathedral in Oklahoma City, a bride was struck down and killed at the altar in front of 75 guests, and the killer turned out to be the groom's mother. Riley Ashford woke up in the master guest room of the Grandview Hotel long before dawn. It was still dark outside, but she couldn't sleep anymore. Her pulse hammered against her throat as if her body itself was trying to warn her of something she refused to acknowledge. Today she would become the wife of Liam Morgan, the man who had saved her from herself 3 years ago, the man who knew nothing about the woman she used to be. She turned on her side and looked at the wedding gown hanging on the brass valet stand near the window. The ivory silk caught the faint glow of the city lights below, and Riley felt a flutter of desperate hope rise in her chest. This was supposed to be her day, the day she had worked toward ever since Liam proposed to her last December in front of the Christmas tree at Bricktown, where they had shared their first real conversation about the future, a future built on carefully constructed omissions. Riley pushed herself out of bed and walked to the window. Oklahoma City stretched out before her, the downtown skyline etched against the pre-dawn darkness. The hotel was located in the heart of the business district, far removed from the neon-drenched casinos of Las Vegas where she had worked 8 years ago. Her mother, Beverly, had helped her leave that life behind, supporting her through college, through therapy, through the slow process of becoming someone new. They had given her everything: a second chance, stability, the ability to breathe without looking over her shoulder. But now, standing at the window and looking out at the sleeping city, Riley felt a cold dread coiling in her stomach. It was as if something inside her knew that this day would not go as smoothly as she had prayed it would. She could still see Elias Morgan's face in her mind, the way his hands had trembled that night at the poker table, the way he had looked at her when he realized what his cheating had cost him, the way he had vanished into hiding, leaving his family shattered. She pushed the thought away violently and went to the bathroom. She had to get ready. Today, she had to be perfect. She had to bury the past forever. By 8:00 the morning, Beverly knocked softly on the door. Riley opened it to find her mother standing in the hallway, already dressed in her mother of the bride suit, holding a garment bag and a small box. Beverly's face lit up when she saw her daughter, but Riley couldn't hold her gaze. She stepped aside to let her mother in, focusing on the pattern of the carpet, the handle of the door, anything but Beverly's eyes. "You look exhausted, sweetheart," Beverly said, setting the garment bag on the chair. "Didn't you sleep?" Riley forced a smile and moved toward the bathroom mirror, reaching for her makeup bag with hands that wouldn't stop trembling. In the reflection, she could see Beverly watching her with that careful concern that had become familiar over the years. The concern of a mother who had pulled her daughter out of darkness once and feared she might slip back into it. "Just wedding jitters," Riley said, her voice brittle and bright. She began applying foundation, watching her own face transform in the mirror, covering imperfections, creating someone new. But behind her carefully painted features, all she could see was Elias Morgan, the way he had sat at her poker table 8 years ago at the Mirage Casino. His movements too confident, too rehearsed, the way she had recognized the cheat instantly, the marked cards, the signals from his partner across the floor. She had frozen then, torn between her job and something else, something that felt like mercy. The gangster across from him, Victor Kozlov, had been drinking heavily, hadn't noticed yet. She could have called security. She could have stopped it. Instead, Riley had watched in silence as Elias raked in a $60,000 pot that didn't belong to him. She had watched Kozlov's face change when he finally understood. She had watched Kozlov's men surround the table. And when security finally arrived, when Elias had looked at her with those desperate, betrayed eyes, she had done nothing. She had chosen her paycheck, her safety, her own survival over his. Within hours, Elias had disappeared. Within days, his family learned that Kozlov's organization had put a price on his head for the public humiliation. Within weeks, Elias Morgan became a ghost. "Riley?" Beverly's voice cut through the memory. "Honey, you're shaking." Riley set down the makeup brush and gripped the edge of the counter. She couldn't do this. She couldn't marry Liam while carrying his brother's destruction in her chest like a stone. But she couldn't lose Liam either. He was everything Elias's world hadn't been. Safe, stable, clean. Liam didn't know about the Vegas years. About the dealers who learned to look away. About the terrible choices made in silence. He knew Riley Ashford, the graduate student he had met at a coffee shop, not Riley, the poker dealer who had let his brother fall. "I'm fine, Mom," Riley whispered. "I'm just nervous." Beverly crossed the room and wrapped her arms around her daughter from behind, meeting her eyes in the mirror. "You deserve this happiness, Riley. You've worked so hard to get here. Don't let the past take this from you." But Beverly didn't know. Nobody knew. And in 3 hours, Riley would walk down the aisle carrying a secret that could destroy everything. Across Oklahoma City, in the Morgan family home in Heritage Hills, Emily Morgan hadn't slept at all. She stood in Elias's old bedroom, the room she had preserved exactly as he had left it 8 years ago, holding a cardboard box she had pulled from the back of his closet. Her hands trembled as she sorted through the contents. Photographs, old receipts, a security badge from the Mirage Casino. And then, at the bottom, folded carefully, a letter. Not sealed, not addressed, just dated 2 days before Elias disappeared. Emily's breath caught as she read the words her son had written in his frantic, slanted handwriting. He had known he was in danger. He had known Kozlov's men were closing in, and he had written down everything that had happened that night at the poker table, including the name of the dealer who had watched it all unfold without saying a word. Riley Ashford. Emily's vision blurred with tears that quickly burned into something harder, something sharper. Riley, the woman her son Liam had brought home 2 years ago, beaming and in love. The woman who had smiled at family dinners, who had laughed at birthday parties, who had stood in this very house pretending she didn't carry Elias's blood on her hands. She had known. Riley had known what was happening, and she had done nothing to protect him. She had let Viktor Kozlov destroy Elias, had let her son vanish into a life of fear and hiding, all to protect herself. Emily's fingers closed around Elias's security badge, her thumb tracing the worn photograph of his young, hopeful face. 8 years of grief crashed over her in a wave so powerful she had to sit down on the edge of his bed. 8 years of not knowing if he was alive or dead. 8 years of watching Liam try to fill the hole his brother had left behind. And now Riley thought she could simply marry into this family. Thought she could take her place at their table, share their name, contaminate Liam's future with whatever danger still followed her from that night. Emily stood up, smoothed her skirt, and reached for her phone. Her hands were steady now. She dialed Riley's number with mechanical precision. The phone rang twice before Riley answered, her voice careful. "Riley, this is Emily Morgan." Her voice was ice. "We need to meet. Now, before the ceremony. There's something you need to see, and something you need to explain." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "I'll text you the address," Emily continued. "Come alone. If you don't, I will walk down that aisle today and tell everyone exactly what you did to my son. Every single guest will know what kind of woman Liam is marrying." "Emily, I don't. You have 1 hour." Emily ended the call and stared at the letter in her hand. Justice. After 8 years of darkness, she would finally get justice for Elias. And if Riley wouldn't walk away willingly, Emily would make sure she never made it to that altar alive. Riley arrived at St. Michael's Cathedral 40 minutes later, her wedding dress still hanging back at the hotel, her hands ice cold despite the November sun. She found Emily waiting in a small preparation room behind the sanctuary, the kind of space used for choir robes and communion supplies. The older woman sat perfectly straight in a folding chair, a cardboard box on the table in front of her. "Close the door," Emily said. Riley obeyed, her heart slamming against her ribs. Through the walls, she could hear the wedding coordinator directing the florists, the cheerful chaos of preparation. In 1 hour, guests would begin arriving. In 2 hours, she was supposed to walk down the aisle. Emily opened the box without preamble and pulled out a security badge. Even from across the room, Riley recognized Elias's face in the photograph. young, hopeful, alive. "I found this last night," Emily said, her voice eerily calm, "along with a letter. Would you like to know what my son wrote before he disappeared?" Riley couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Emily unfolded the paper and read aloud. "The dealer saw everything. Riley Ashford." She watched Kozlov figure it out, and she didn't say a word. "She could have called security before I took that last hand. She could have warned me, but she just stood there. And now they're going to kill me. I have to run. I have to disappear. Tell Mom I'm sorry." The words hung in the air like poison. Riley felt her legs weaken, her vision narrowing to Emily's face, lined with 8 years of grief that had calcified into something terrible. "You knew," Emily whispered, standing now, moving closer. "You watched my son cheat death that night and you did nothing. You let him take that money. You let Kozlov's men come for him. You let him vanish into hiding. Let this family tear itself apart, wondering if he was dead or alive. And then you had the audacity to walk into our lives, smile at our table, and seduce his brother." "It wasn't like that," Riley managed, her voice breaking. "I was terrified. Kozlov's men, they would have—" "You were terrified." Emily's laugh was sharp and cruel. "My son has been living in fear for 8 years because of you. Because you chose yourself." Riley's chest heaved. "I made a mistake. I was 23 years old. I was just trying to survive. And now you're trying to marry Liam." Emily pulled something else from the box. A heavy military medallion on a worn chain, the kind given to decorated service members, Elias's father's medallion. "Here's what's going to happen. You are going to cancel this wedding. You are going to disappear from Oklahoma, from Liam's life, from this family forever. Or I will stand up during that ceremony and tell every single person in that church exactly who you are and what you did. I will tell them that you are the reason Viktor Kozlov's organization might still be looking for anyone connected to Elias. I will tell them you've put Liam in danger just by being near him." Riley felt something crack inside her. "No, I love him. I'm not the same person I was." "You don't get to love him." Emily's composure shattered. "You don't get to have a happy ending while my son is God knows where. Hiding, afraid, alone. You took Elias from me. You don't get to take anything else from this family. I'm not leaving him." Riley's voice steadied with desperate determination. "I love Liam. I'm going to marry him. Whatever happened 8 years ago, I can't change it, but I can have a future. We can have a future." Emily's eyes went cold. She gripped the medallion tighter, her knuckles white. "Then you've made your choice. And so have I." She turned and walked out, leaving Riley alone in the small room, her wedding an hour away and her past closing in like a noose. The ceremony began exactly on time. Street. Michael's cathedral was packed, 75 guests filling the dark wooden pews beneath soaring stained glass windows. Candlelight flickered across marble floors. The organ swelled with traditional hymns. Everything was perfect, exactly as Riley had planned during months of careful preparation. She walked down the aisle on Beverly's arm, her ivory gown flowing behind her, her veil obscuring the terror in her eyes. Liam stood at the altar in his dark suit, his face radiating pure joy. He had no idea. He knew nothing about the conversation an hour ago, nothing about his mother's ultimatum, nothing about the secret that was about to detonate in the middle of their wedding. Emily sat in the front pew, perfectly composed, the military medallion hidden in the folds of her dress. Reverend Clay, a soft-spoken man in his 60s who had known the Morgan family for years, led them through the traditional vows. Riley spoke her lines mechanically, her voice barely audible. Liam squeezed her hands, misreading her trembling as emotion. "I, Riley, take you, Liam, to be my lawfully wedded husband," she whispered, the words ash in her mouth. "I, Liam, take you, Riley, to be my lawfully wedded wife," he responded, his voice strong and certain. Reverend Clay smiled warmly at the congregation. If anyone has reason why these two should not be joined in holy matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace." The silence stretched for exactly 3 seconds. Then Emily shot to her feet. "I object." Her voice cracked like thunder through the cathedral. The congregation gasped. Liam spun around, his face draining of color. "Mom, what are you?" But Emily was already walking down the aisle toward the altar, her hand reaching into her dress. She pulled out the military medallion, the heavy metal catching the candlelight, its sharp-edged design glinting like a weapon. "This woman," Emily's voice shook with fury, "destroyed your brother." Riley Ashford was the poker dealer the night Elias cheated Victor Kozlov. She watched everything happen, and she said nothing. She let them come for him. She let him disappear. She is the reason Elias has been in hiding for 8 years, the reason we don't know if he's alive or dead. The cathedral erupted in shocked murmurs. Liam stared at Riley, his face frozen in disbelief. Riley felt the floor tilt beneath her feet. "That's not," Riley started, but her voice failed. "Tell him," Emily screamed, advancing closer. "Tell him how you watched his brother that night. Tell him how you chose your job over Elias's life." Liam grabbed Riley's arm, pulling her close, his eyes searching her face desperately. "Riley, tell me this isn't true. Tell me she's lying." Riley's eyes filled with tears. "Liam, I was young, I was scared, I didn't know what to do. Oh God." Liam's voice broke. But instead of pulling away, he held her tighter. "It doesn't matter. Whatever happened, it doesn't matter. I love you. We're finishing this ceremony." He turned to Reverend Clay, his jaw set. "Continue, please." Emily stood 10 feet away, the medallion gripped in her shaking hand, watching her son choose Riley over everything. Over truth. Over family. Over Elias. Something inside, Emily snapped. She had given Riley a chance. She had offered mercy in that back room. A way out that would have spared everyone this pain. But Riley had refused. And now Liam, her beautiful boy, her only remaining son, was clinging to the woman who had destroyed their family, ready to bind himself to her forever. No. Not while Emily still had breath in her body. "Reverend," Liam was saying, his arm around Riley's trembling shoulders, "please continue with the ceremony." Reverend Clay looked uncertainly between Liam and Emily, his face pale. "Son, perhaps we should take a moment." "No," Liam's voice was firm. "I'm marrying her. Right now." Emily watched Riley lean into Liam's embrace. Watched her son's hand stroke Riley's back comfortingly. Watched the woman who had let Elias vanish find safety in the arms of the brother left behind. The injustice of it burned through Emily like acid. 8 years. 8 years of Emily waking up every morning, wondering if today would be the day she got the call that they'd found Elias's body. 8 years of Liam trying to be enough for her. Trying to fill the hole his brother had left. Carrying guilt that wasn't his to carry. 8 years of this family bleeding from a wound that Riley Ashford had inflicted and then walked away from. And now Riley thought she deserved happiness, deserved love, deserved Liam. The medallion felt heavy in Emily's hand, its edges sharp where the metal had been tooled into decorative points. Her husband's medallion, given to him for valor in combat. Given to Elias when his father died. The last piece of her eldest son that Emily still possessed. "This is for Elias!" Emily screamed and lunged forward. She moved faster than anyone expected. Faster than Reverend Clay could step between them. Faster than the gasping guests could process what was happening. Faster than Liam could turn. Emily raised the medallion high and brought it down with all the force of 8 years of grief and rage. The sharp edge caught Riley across the temple. Blood bloomed instantly, a shocking red against the ivory silk of her veil. Riley's scream cut off into a choked gasp. "Mom, no!" Liam's voice was raw with horror. But Emily was already striking again, the medallion flashing in the candlelight. "You always pay your debts," she shrieked, the words ripping from somewhere primal and broken inside her. "You always pay." The second blow caught Riley's cheek, tearing through skin. The third struck her neck. Riley crumpled, her legs giving out, Liam catching her as she fell. Her blood splattered across the white marble floor, across Liam's suit, across the altar steps where moments ago she had been speaking her vows. The cathedral erupted in chaos. Guests screamed and surged backward. Two men in the third pew, off-duty police officers, vaulted over the wooden benches and sprinted toward the altar. Emily raised the medallion for a fourth strike, but hands grabbed her from behind. The officers tackled her to the ground, wrestling the weapon from her grip. She didn't fight them. She let them pin her arms. Let them force her face against the cold marble. From where she lay, Emily could see Riley sprawled across the altar steps, her wedding gown spreading around her like wings, the ivory silk turning crimson. Liam knelt over her, his hands pressed against her wounds, his voice breaking as he begged her to stay with him, to hold on, to please not leave him. But Riley's eyes were already glazing over. Her breath came in shallow, rattling gasps. Blood pooled beneath her dark hair, spreading across the marble in patterns that looked almost beautiful in the candlelight. "Riley, please," Liam sobbed, cradling her head in his lap. "Please, I love you. Please stay with me." Beverly pushed through the crowd, screaming her daughter's name. But someone held her back. Reverend Clay was on his phone, shouting for an ambulance. Guests stood frozen in the pews, hands over their mouths, unable to look away from the horror unfolding before them. Emily felt the cold metal of handcuffs click around her wrists. She didn't resist. Her face was calm now, almost serene. She kept her eyes locked on Riley's fading form. "Justice," Emily whispered to no one in particular. "For Elias," finally. One of the officers yanked her to her feet, reading her rights in a harsh, mechanical voice. But Emily wasn't listening. She watched Liam press his forehead against Riley's, watched him whisper promises into her unhearing ear, watched the exact moment Riley's chest stopped rising. The silence that followed was absolute. Liam's anguished cry shattered it. He gathered Riley's body against his chest, her head lolling back, her veil soaked through with blood. His shoulders heaved with sobs that seemed to come from the deepest part of his soul. The officers pulled Emily toward the side door of the cathedral. She went without protest, her eyes still on her son. Liam looked up as they passed, his face twisted with grief and rage and incomprehension. "She took Elias from us," Emily said softly, meeting his gaze. "I couldn't let her take you too. You killed her." Liam's voice cracked. "You killed the woman I love. She was trying to change, she was trying to be better, and you killed her." Emily's expression didn't change. She paid her debt. That's all. The scales are balanced now. They took her out through the side entrance, into the bright November sunlight. Behind her, she could hear sirens approaching, could hear the continued chaos inside the cathedral, could hear Beverly's screams and Liam's broken crying. But Emily felt nothing, except a strange, hollow peace. She had done what needed to be done. She had protected her family the only way she knew how. She had made Riley pay for the choice she'd made 8 years ago in that Las Vegas casino. For the silence that had destroyed Elias, and nearly destroyed them all. The scales were balanced. Finally, after 8 years of darkness, Emily had delivered justice, even if that justice had cost her everything she had left.